see it a little bit deeper. Yeshua is also a name, right? Yeshua is the name. Yeshua is a person also. So salvation could be personified. I mean, salvation is not just an act of being saved from to something, but salvation is a being. Right? Salvation is a being. It's a nature. You know, we always view salvation in the terms of some being saved from something, or from something and for something. But I think when we try to look carefully, we will discover that salvation is not just the action of being saved from something for something, or from something to something, but salvation is a being, is a nature, is a nature. And if salvation is then a nature, then it's not something to be saved, that save you from, you know, to something, but it's a nature that is a state of being, or a nature that is. Now, to be saved then would be that the person to be saved then in that case would be that the person come to the realization of that nature that we call salvation. That is to be saved, physically speaking. You see, to be saved is the recognition of the nature which is salvation. It's not necessarily an act of saving somebody or something from. You see, why I'm saying so? Because if you study book of Corinthians, Paul is dealing with new creation. And new creation is our true identity. And there is a problem when we say our identity in Christ. No, because that impose duality. That will impose, exactly. We cannot just say our identity in Christ. That would be like there is Christ and there is any kind of nature, and that nature is in that nature we call Christ. Meanwhile, Christ is the identity itself. You see, Christ is the identity itself. It's not just us in Christ, but Christ is that identity itself. You understand? There is no duality. There is no partiality. There is no duality inside. There is only one identity. You see. So, if that Christ is that identity, right, and salvation is a being, salvation then must be that nature. Salvation is that nature. Salvation is that Christ. Salvation is our true being. Salvation is who we are. Salvation is not what we are saved. It's not an action to save us from. That is to behold yourself in duality. But salvation is actually our true self. That self, one can call it salvation. It lives by itself, operates by itself, exists by itself, self-sustaining, self-maintenance, and self-alive, self-aware. You see, that is salvation. That is salvation. So to come to the recognition of it, that is to be saved. Being saved is, because when we talk about being saved, that means it's a process. Being saved is a process of awakening to that self, which is salvation. So once one comes to the recognition of it, that person is saved. Right? And this this is something, because I was studying last time. I was looking on this salvation issue and trying to find a way how to elaborate it, how to communicate this oneness knowledge. Another thing also is that there is a difference when we talk about us and God. You see, we have to come to a point where we evitate as much as duality as possible if we want to live in oneness and be conscious of one. You see, the word in Hebrew that amazed me is they say, "Let us make men according to our own image." Now when you study that portion, it's not "let us make men in our image." The word to make there is to become. Let us become men according to our image. That changed the whole thing. When you say, "Let us become men," it's the word to become, right? Let us become. In other words, that will imply that one person changed another form to another person. You understand? It's the same person but in a different form. You see, let us become. That means it's me, like just like the what did they call that animal that start to scroll and then it become a fly, like the butterfly. The butterfly actually he start as a caterpillar. You understand? From caterpillar he changed another form. He become the butterfly. It's the same thing, but in a high plane. So from caterpillar, a caterpillar level is now our humanity level. You understand? But now the seed, the butterfly is inside the caterpillar. That is the real him, is a butterfly. Now the more he transcend, he transform, he leave the caterpillar level. Now he evaluates himself to his real self. That is the butterfly. But it's the same things on process. It's the same animals on process. You never see another animal change to another animal, except the caterpillar to butterfly. And that speaks a lot about our human nature and our spiritual nature. Because to scroll speak earthy level. To fly speak air. And whosoever speak about air, he speak about spirits. Whosoever speak about earthy, he speak about humanity. You see, so we have that two things combined together, from humanity to divinity, to air, from humanity to spirits. You understand? But in humanity, the divinity was already there. Otherwise, he cannot become a butterfly if the butterfly was not in him. You understand? So in that process, his divinity, there was a shift that took place. From humanity, it shifted to his divinity, the real him. Now he can fly and go wherever he go without limitation. Because as a caterpillar, he can only eat earth. And that's the only thing he is.
And afterward, he eats nectar.
Exactly. You see, when he works as a caterpillar, he thinks, exactly. He thinks, this is all I am. I live here. That's all I have. That's my body. That's my world. And that is not a process of one day, you see. But at the peak of the moment, there is a total change. A total begin to change. His physical form begin to metamorphose. It transforms into another shape. A shape completely different than what it was before. Paul said, even if this house is perishing, we have an edifice. A heavenly, in other words, a spiritual. So the caterpillar doesn't die, though the death process was not to kill him, but the real death process was to remove the caterpillar issue in his body and to take a higher shape, to be transformed, to be metamorphosed to a higher shape. He's the only animal, as far as I'm concerned till now, that can do that. And that is interesting. That speaks so a lot of, much about us. That's why when I was meditating on this, my spirit went down to this salvation issue. And to me, I understood that salvation is that being, that butterfly. To be saved is the change that takes place from the caterpillar to the butterfly. That process is being saved. You understand? Because as long as the butterfly is locked inside the caterpillar, you understand? He's in prison. He's limited. That's why Paul will say something. Paul say, we desire to be clothed from above. He said, in this earthly vessel, he said, we yawn, we cry. We are desiring the salvation of our body. Not the salvation of, because we are spirit, we are the salvation. But this physical body need to put on immortality body. You see? See that corrupted shall put on incorruptible, immortality shall put on immortality. Which is the shift of course, in the mind. So I came to understand that we can never be lost. Neither can we be lost. You see? But when we talk about to be lost, I think it's better to use the term ignorant. We are trapped in ignorance. We are trapped in the lie. And that lie is the loss. That which we have been trapped in, that's the loss. That is what we have been lose ourselves in. But in reality, you cannot be lost. You see? And I think generation to come will have to understand this in order for them to grow properly in the understanding of their identity. First, they have to unite themselves with themselves. I mean, the body, spirit, and soul. With a unification. And to do this, they have to understand that we were not lost, or we are not lost. You see? Because if you are born, begotten, come forth from the infinite, then you never be bound into something. You see? You never be bound into something that they need to pay the price to take you out. So now, the church, most of the time, they take the image of the Old Testament with the ransom and goat. Those things, the Bible says, it was all shadows of things to come. They were images. They were examples. They were not to mean so, but they were images and examples of things to come. The body is of Christ, that we are. That means the reality is us. Those things was a shadow. You see, it's so interesting. It's so interesting to understand that, to see salvation in that point of view. That salvation is a being. That being is a Christ. That Christ is who we are. To be saved is the recognition, the process of recognition of that being we call Christ. That is salvation.